Hello and welcome to the Under Eagle Mountain Making Podcast. Hello, my name's Laura and I'm a maker in the northwest of England, and this is my podcast where I like to discuss the things that I have made, that I am making and that I'm hoping to make in the future. That encompasses knitting, sewing, natural dyeing, and more recently pottery, and a few other things as the mood takes me. Normally I follow the usual podcast sort of routine of finished objects, whips and plans. Today is not going to be that sort of episode. Actually, this is like an extra episode. If you've watched sort of the previous two episodes, in both of those I kind of touched on how I've been thinking about changes I want to make in my approaches to knitting and sewing in particular, with regards to using up stash, using up the resources that I already have, and with regards to maybe thinking a little bit more before I start making something, thinking about what I need, what I want, what I'll use, to make sure that I am putting the resources that I spend my money on, that I bring into my home and so take up space, make sure that they're earning their keep, that they're kind of worthwhile. I mean, that's tricky, isn't it? Because it's all worthwhile, really, if you enjoy the process of it, if it's, bringing you happiness, bringing you peace, it's kind of all worth it. But I know, for example, right at the beginning of last year, I think I probably showed it in my first ever episode. I knitted a little cabled button-up vest, like sleeveless cardigan, and I really like it. And I knitted it in a hedgehog fibres tweedy yarn, but it was like pale grey with lots of speckles of really bright coloured yarns in it. And I really like the pattern and I really like the yarn, but I never wear it. I think partly because I don't wear grey at all. I don't really like grey. I do know what possessed me. I love the speckles. That's what it was. I just thought it was beautiful. So sort of objectively, I really liked the yarn, but I never wear anything grey. It doesn't go with anything in my wardrobe at all. I think I've worn it twice, which is a real shame. I really enjoyed knitting it. It's a really nice pattern, and I think I would knit the pattern again, but one or maybe even two sizes up. It's not that it's too small. It does fit me, but it's quite a fitted garment, which means, again, I don't have many fitted clothes, so it doesn't fit over the top of dresses or like shirts in a way that I think I would wear it. So it was one of those things. I just saw the pattern, I saw the yarn, I thought, yes, that's lovely, and I did it. And I didn't actually at any point think, what is the end point for this? How is this going to be used? How is this going to work in my life? And as a result, I now have this thing that I feel slightly guilty about and I don't know what to do with, because I don't want it just sat in my cupboard. A, because I don't want it taking up space, and B, because, what a waste of resource, of material, of everything, of my time. So, I've been thinking about that a lot over sort of the end of last year and as we've started this year. And I don't think I'm alone in that. I think a lot of this sort of planning and intention setting type videos, following on from those videos, everything I knitted last year type videos where people are sort of doing an overview and having a think. I think a lot of people are feeling the same way, that they just really want to drill down into their making a little bit more, thinking about what, making sure that the things that they make holds real value for them. And obviously there is the value of just the making of itself. I really don't want to minimize that. The process is so important. It brings you happiness, and it can bring you peace, and it can help you in times of upset or stress or whatever. And that holds a huge amount of worth in itself. But and I think a lot of other people want to make sure that the end product as well, you know, is as worthwhile, is as useful, and isn't then going to become a source of anxiety or guilt or stress because, oh no, I've got all these things and I'm not wearing them, what am I going to do with them? I feel bad about it. So there's that. Also, I just have a lot of stuff. Like I've been knitting quite a long time now, and the more I've knitted, the more I've sort of tended to kind of collect yarn, and same with fabric. I'm not as bad with large pieces of fabric. I tend mostly to buy a piece of fabric with the intention of making a specific pattern. The problem is I don't always then do it. Or sometimes if I've got an example of that here, if I bought a piece of fabric online, when it's turned up, it's not been quite right. It hasn't turned out quite the way I'd hoped for the particular pattern. I still really like the fabric and still want to use it, but I couldn't use it for the thing that I was thinking of using it for. And so it collects. And whilst I don't feel bad about it, I don't feel guilty about it, you know, I think relatively mine is quite a modest stash. That's a whole other thing, isn't it? What people think is okay and what people think is too much. You know, there might be some people that think, well, if you've got more than what you're using for your current project and for your next project, then that's too much. And then there's some people that could knit every day for 5 years and not need to buy more yarn because they've got so much, but they might think that's fine. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, mostly it is fine. I think there probably are some mega extreme examples, but I think on the whole, it's up to you, you know. You're not doing any harm, really. You know, you're not stealing. As long as you're paying for it with your own money, it's nobody's business, is it? I watched a sort of an intention setting video by Marlene Knits recently, and she talked about this a lot. You know, she wants to sort of knit down her stash. And I think, again, you know, she's saying not from a guilt point of view, not from a, oh my God, this is so bad that I've got all this stuff. More from a, she wants to, you know, she doesn't want to squander the potential of all the beautiful yarns that she's got in her stash. She wants to enjoy them the same way she enjoyed them when she bought them. She wants to enjoy them whilst using them and then whilst wearing them. And I think, you know, every time she buys something new and uses that in lieu of using something that she already has, then perhaps she's kind of missing out. She's sort of deferring the joy that she'd get from those already owned yarns. And so I feel a bit like that. She also pointed out that people have very strong feelings about this. And whilst it's perfectly okay for people to have those feelings, and whilst they might want to communicate them, you know, she asked that everybody did it in a polite way and that perhaps, you know, don't be rude. So I suppose I'm adding that here too. I've never had a rude comment. I'm really lucky. Everybody that has commented on my podcasts in the last 9 months have just been kind and supportive, and you know, it's been really friendly. It's been exactly the thing that I wanted when I started this channel. And actually, on that note, I would just like to say a quick thank you to everybody that gave advice about my poorly wrist and arm. I was talking about it in last episode that I was struggling a little bit with knitting because it was hurting, and lots of people got in contact with advice, and overwhelmingly the advice was try some acupuncture. So I did. I actually had my first session yesterday, and it was, I've had acupuncture quite a long time ago, like 16 years ago, and it worked for the ailment that I had then. And the guy seemed really good. He was really professional. It was really gentle, and I've got high hopes that it will help. So yeah, thank you again. But just going back to what I was saying before, you know, if you do have feelings about all the stuff that I'm going to show and talk about and so forth, that's fine. They're your feelings, but maybe think about whether or not I need to know your feelings before you send me a ranty message, if that's what you want to do. Okay, hopefully not. This is not going to be a video that has like making plans attached to it. I said last time I might do that at the beginning of March, at the beginning of spring. You get all that, you know, spring energy and excitement for the new season. I think I'll save that for then. I've got a lot of present like gift makes at the minute, knitting and sewing, and I'm not doing a huge amount of knitting because I'm trying to rest my arm. So I'm trying not to plan stuff, partly because it's a bit like torture if I can't actually do any of it, and also because I've got 3 outstanding whips. I've got a pair of socks that I showed last time, my Easy V that I showed last time, and I did start, like in autumn, I started the Wellerman shawl, which is a big textured shawl by Caitlin Hunter, and I've only done about this much. I don't think I've even shown it on here because I've done so little of it, but I kind of want to make progress on those as well. So what this video is sort of is talking about those intentions, about trying to use what I've got, and I'm not going to say a no buy on yarn or fabric. I am going to try for a low buy. I'm not doing a no buy for 3 reasons. There are 3 reasons. One is that I am attending 2 yarn festivals. When I was talking about this to my daughter, she just said, but we are still going to go to Yarn Day. We've been every year, we've got to go, you know, and there's no way you can go and not buy anything. So I was like, no, that's fine. I'm going to give myself, that's an okay. I will try and be very considered about what I buy. I don't want to just buy stuff for the sake of it. I'm going to try and go with projects and like amounts and stuff like that. And then I did it yesterday, book tickets for the Woolly Good Gathering. Well, a ticket to go on the Friday to go to the Woolly Good Gathering, which is in Edinburgh in April. So again, you know, I think it's unlikely that I wouldn't come back with at least 1 skein of yarn from that. So that's the sort of caveat. Another one is if I'm knitting for somebody else, then I would buy wool to suit the project or to suit them. So again, I'm kind of thinking of my daughter there. She wants a sweater this year, and I think I've knitted her a few, but I think she, you know, kids grow, don't they? And my eldest son has also grown out of his hand knit sweater. So if I knitted something for those, I wouldn't necessarily make them pick something from my stash because their tastes are different, and you know, depending on what pattern they chose, I might not have the right weight or anything like that. So I wouldn't mind buying, particularly because I would buy the wool and knit the thing, and then it's, you know, it's in and out straight away. So that's fine. And the third sort of caveat that I'm giving myself is that I would still buy wool to dye. Kind of I've said this before, the dyeing, the naturally dyeing, so dyeing with plants and plant matter, that's kind of like a separate hobby, and it does result in fabric and it does result in yarn to use. But the dyeing, the process, you know, that's something that I love and enjoy as separate to what I then do with the thing. So I will still buy some undyed yarn to enjoy that hobby with. So yeah, low buy. And I want to come out with sort of a stash negative. So by that I mean I've kind of looked at how much I have in stash now, and I'm going to try and record what comes in, what goes out, and I want to end the year with less than I start at the year being from now. Again, different people do this different ways. I know Marlene in Marlene Knits, I think she said she had something like 17 kilos of yarn, and she knew what meterage that was. I think she puts it all into Ravelry when she buys something. She inputs it all, which is very organised and not something that I don't think I could even aspire to. It's just not, I'm not that organised. I'm a bit more ad hoc. And then, you know, so I can't do that. But what I have done is I've gone through my stash. I tidied it up at the end of the year. I'm going to show you a photograph. I have this cupboard here that the kids call the cupboard of doom, because when you open it, things had a tendency to fall out and hit you. So I have tidied it up quite a lot. And I put a lot of my yarn into plastic bags and then I put them into plastic boxes. In fact, I'll put a picture up now. So there you are, you can see inside there are 4 big plastic boxes. They are 45 litre boxes. The bottom one isn't yarn, that's things like wool stuffing for toys or wool batting for quilts, or there's some like wool felt in there for when I'm doing projects with the kids or whatever. But then the next 3 big ones have all got yarn in, and then there's 2 little ones you can see on the top, and they have yarn that I have dyed in. So one of them is the sock calendar. Like I dyed a skein of sock yarn every month for the year in 2003. I've only knitted 2 pairs of socks out of that, so you know, that's kind of exactly what I mean. I've got this beautiful wool that I dyed that I spent ages planning and doing, and then it's just there and I'm not using it. So that's a really good example of stuff that I want to try and get through and use and enjoy and value. So yeah, those 2. The other one is like there's the odd whole skein of yarn and there's like leftovers. So for example, that wool that I knitted my Louvre jumper in that I talked about last time and the time before, you know, the leftovers go in that box. I just kind of keep them separate from sort of commercially bought yarn. And then I'll put up this other picture. This is a little cupboard that one of my aunties gave me that I love, and that holds yarn, and that is that's kind of yarn that I have in mind to use next or imminently, so I don't have to sort of dig through all those. I do always end up digging through those boxes. It's a bit of a pain, because it invariably the thing that you want is in the, you know, most bottom box, and you have to lift all the others off and things fall and hit you, and because you can see there's all sorts of other stuff piled up in there as well. So I try and put stuff that I think I might like to use next in this little cupboard, and so it's more accessible, and I sort of get it out and have a look. So actually the yarn I'm going to show you today is the stuff that's in that cupboard, because I thought I'm not going to go through everything and show you every ball and skein and whatever of wool that I've got, but I thought I'd show you some of my favourites. So anyway, as I was saying, I went through it all, and what I did is I assigned everything the value of 1 unit. So that is every ball, every skein, everything has a value of 1 unit. Now that varies quite dramatically, because I have, you know, some 10-gram skeins, mini skeins, that's 1 unit, and then I've got some 500-gram cones, that's 1 unit. So, you know, the amount in each of those units is very variable, but to me this was just the easiest way of doing it. So everything got ascribed a value of 1 unit, and I counted up how many units I had. So actually I did it in September. That's when I tidied it all up. It was before I went to Yarndale, and I had 165 units, which I felt was quite a lot. A lot of those are mini skeins. I'm not gonna excuse it. That's just what it is. 165. Then after Yarndale, that went up to 185 because I bought yarn, and I did show in an episode, probably at the end of September, I did show everything that I bought. So if you felt like you wanted to, you could go back and look at that. But I've then kept a record since I did that in September. I've kept a record of everything that's gone in and everything that's gone out, and I am currently now down to 163 units. So I am already starting in a better position than I was at the end of like the latter half of last year. So that's a positive. Now, there is something I have to be very honest about. When I was given, you know, counting up the number of units of yarn that I have, I did not include yarn that was already in a project. So I've got one here, like a really long standing whip. But because that was already being used when I did my survey, my yarn survey, that didn't get included. But it is still there, it does still exist. So, you know, that's a bit of a dodgy point. And also, I didn't include all like leftover scrappy bits of yarn. So in those boxes I've got bags, like I've got one bag that has got all like ends of balls or stuff that I got in yarn swaps, like when I did Yarn Chicks podcast. She does like a stash event, like an advent calendar that you swap between people. Stuff that I got from that. I have a bag that's sort of pinks and another one that's sort of purples and another one that's sort of greens, and I kind of sort them out and put them away so they're kind of more usable when they're organised like that. But I did not include any of those things. So although I'm saying I've got 163 units, there is actually more yarn than that suggests. So for example, I'll put up a picture. This is like a little tray box of yarn that I sorted out recently that I'm thinking of using in like a log cabin knit. Julia from Me and Simone does these beautiful log cabin jumpers, and she's just recently sort of organised a kind of community based, like friendly, relaxed knit along. And I joined in one a couple of years ago and knitted a jumper for my littlest, and I want to do it again. I knitted a vest for my daughter as well, actually, using that same method. So I might make it into a top, but I think I'm going to make a log cabin into a cushion front. That's what I think I'm going to use it for. So I've got all of those. I mean, look at how many are in there, but none of those are included in my yarn survey. I've only included whole balls or skeins or cones. I mean, there's like the odd one that I might have used to swatch with, or I might have used 5 grams because I needed it just to finish off like the cuff of a jumper or whatever. But they're like whole or very almost whole balls. So that's where I am, 163 units. I'm putting out there and being honest. So I thought I would go through and show you some of the things that I'm hoping to use. As I say, I don't necessarily have any set plans for them. I will be thinking about that over the next month and a half or so, and maybe come up with a list of things that I think would be good, would be useful. Some might be, you know, picking them more because they'd be interesting to knit, but I'm really trying to hold that focus, that goal of knitting something that will be useful and valuable and worthwhile to me. Okay, so the first one I've got is this. I bought this not last Yarndale, the one before, Wensleydale long wool. It's in a natural shade, shade 1. It is a DK, 235 meters to the 100 grams. I think it looks quite thin. I have actually opened one of these. I think I've got 500 grams of this, and I did open one and swatch it to knit something, can't remember, but it was way too thin. It was like the gauge was way too small, and on 4mm needles it looked a bit holy, you know, when you can, looks a bit gappy, a bit netty. So I think that looks really thin for a DK, and it didn't like plump up that much, but it has got a really nice halo to it. And it's a lovely colour. I think I'm just going to try and knit something quite simple in that. Like, I don't know, but just something quite plain, quite simple, quite classic. That would be really useful. And I might look at things maybe that have like a sport weight gauge, or even like a fingering weight gauge, because it is really tiny. I'll need to do some swatching, but I would like to use that. I think it would be good to have something in that colour. So that's 1. 2, now I didn't show this on here. I showed it on my Instagram, and I kept saying that I'd show it here, and I forgot. When we were in France in the summer holidays, we went for 3 weeks, and I had in my mind that I'd really like to buy some French wool. And just amazingly, the village that we were staying in had this beautiful shop, and in it there were lots and lots of locally made there were like baskets and clothes, and like light shades. It was like really eclectic, but it was really beautiful. And everything was sort of local artisan made. And in it had this beautiful wool, and it is local Normandy wool. And some of it was naturally dyed. So I got four 100-gram skeins in the natural colour. And that's double knit, 260 meters per 100 grams. And then I got 2 of this, which is 260 meters per 50 grams. So it's like half the weight. Now, bizarrely, it looks thicker, but I think that's because this is dyed. It's already bloomed. And this has been dyed with Cosmos, which is a dye plant I use. I grow the flowers and use it. And I feel it's quite toothy. This one feels a bit softer, I think, because when it was dyed, it will have been washed and everything. I'm all right with scratchy wool, but I don't think I'd make something very fitted that I would wear next to my skin with it. Maybe I would. I don't know. But I'm thinking some sort of vest, some sort of colourwork vest. I did think the Bifurca vest by Teti Luxac. That was what I had in mind when I bought it. That's what I checked the like the meterage and stuff, the yarn requirements to knit that when I went to the shop and bought it. That's what I had in my brain. Whether or not that comes to fruition, I don't know. And whether or not I would pick bright yellow again, I don't know. But I do really like it. And I want to use it because it's a really lovely reminder of that holiday. It's really special. I'm never ever going to be able to get that again. So that's 2. I'll do this one. This one, if you've watched the podcast from before, you'll have seen this. This is a bit like my nemesis, this yarn. This is Wool Cut Opus. It's very beautiful. It's in the colour Goldenrod. It's 17% merino, 70% merino, 30% baby alpaca, and apparently it's 100% awesome. That's what it said. It's 350 meters to 100 grams. So it's listed as a sport weight, though. I think that's a bit more like a fingering weight, but it's listed, well, maybe it's, I don't know. It's listed as a sport weight because it's quite bouncy. It is so soft. It's absolutely beautiful. And I bought it initially. Well, actually, my husband bought it me for my birthday like 3 years ago. Yeah, my 41st birthday, and I've just had my 44th. So yeah, 3 years ago. And I started knitting a bay sweater, which is a pattern by Jacqueline Sislak. And I'd done all the front and I'd done all the back, and then you have to join them along the arms. Like you knit the front sleeve to sleeve, and then you knit the, I think it was a long time ago, and then you join them like with a 3-needle bind off, but like a snazzy 3-needle bind off, so you have the seam, like a flat seam on the outside. And I did it and it looked really nice. And then when I turned it around, I realised I twisted the back piece, and that's it. It went in the bag, in the cupboard, and it stayed there for a year, and I just couldn't bear it. I found it so hard doing this bind off, and the idea of having to undo it because it had like short rows, like, you know, like duplicate stitches from German short rows in it, and just the idea of trying to undo it all, just, it was too much. So then I fell out of love with that. If I even still, look, I haven't even, here I can show you, because I haven't even undone it, so I still could go back. That's the front, and that's the back. How I didn't notice that I'd done that, I don't know. But you can see it's a beautiful colour. Oh, I love it so much. It's so nice. It makes a really nice drapey fabric. So that was that. And then I thought, no, I'm fed up with that. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to start knitting something else. And I started knitting the Helix sweater. And again, if you've watched this from the start, you'll have seen this. And this is a pattern by, is Is it Jessie May? I think it is. If it's not, I'll put the name up on the screen, but I think it's Jessie May Designs. And it's like this lace work pattern. It's called the Helix. And it's meant to have long sleeves, quite a crop body, but long sleeves. And I was doing really well with this. And then I did something wrong. I don't even remember what it was. And I don't even know if I can see it now. Here. I don't know if you can see that. The light's a bit funny today. Can you see here? I don't know what I did. I just did something wrong and it went all weird. But then trying to tink back through all the lace with all the yarn overs and everything was not easy. Looking at that, that's maybe not quite as bad as I remember. The thing is, it was like here. It was right in the maybe like here on my collarbone. It was right at the front. Like if it had been on the back, I think I would just thought, who cares? I can't see the back of me. But because it was right there, I thought, no, I've got to fix it. And I really had to concentrate on this. It was like a really, oh, the sun's come out. Oh, look, no, I'm sorry, bear with me. I'm going to go and just draw that curtain. It's been so miserable all week. It feels a bit sad. Oh, that's a bit better though. Yeah, I don't know. I had a problem with that. That went in the cupboard and hasn't come out. So I've now got like two. Oh, I chucked it down here. I've now got two like yolks basically. I've been looking for those needles as well. In this yarn. And I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should go back to the original idea and unpick that sleeve, whether I should go back to trying to do the helix and just like really focus and try and move on, or whether I should go for third time lucky and just do something simple that like hopefully I won't cock up, because I really love the yarn. I really love it. I love the colour. It's like a sort of ochre colour, and it's so soft. It makes something really nice and drapey. You could definitely wear that. Like even somebody that wasn't that keen on wool could wear that right next to their skin. I think it is like baby soft. I do like it, but I kind of have negative associations with it now because it's just been such a headache. So yeah, that's the third thing I'd really like to use. The fourth thing is this. This is nice yarn. I got this time at Yarndale, so it hasn't been in my stash a very long time, but I want to use it just because I love the colour. I think that, yeah, that's a more honest colour. It's like quite a nice dark foresty green. It's quite woolly wool on the whole, even though I've just said about that opus being really beautiful and soft. On the whole, I like a slightly toothy woolly wool. It's cold where I live. I like to be warm. I wear jumpers all year round. We need jumpers in summer quite often in West Yorkshire. We do get some hot weather, but not a lot. And it doesn't usually last into the evening. So this is Laxton's. It's wool trace, which is 100% British wool, and there is a QR code and you can scan it to find out the flock that the wool came from. This is in the shade Frosted Sage, and it's 225 metres per 100 grams. I really like using Laxton's. Laxton's is the mill that I get my undyed wool for, a lot of it, not all of it. But I get the undyed wool that I use for dyeing from. They're really supportive of British sheep farming and wool producing, and they spin in a mill really close, like about an hour from where I live. So it feels really nice to be able to support them and use them. And I just love the colour. So I'm thinking probably a cardigan in this. I've got 500 grams. Oh, 400. 1, 2, 3, 400 grams. I thought I had 500 grams. 400 grams of that. I don't know if that'd be enough for the card. I don't know. I sort of had something in mind, but maybe not, because I might not have enough of it. This yarn is also a British yarn, also spun very close to where I live in Yorkshire, and also was bought at Yarndale, which is a Yorkshire yarn festival. But this I have had a very long time. This is Woolly Knits British Wool. I think the colourway is Harvest. I'm not entirely sure. They didn't have colourways on the stand. So this, I'm holding that, but I've skeined that up from, I took it off this. They come in like these big 200 gram skeins when you get them from the show. It's fingering weight, and I think 200, I think you get like 2 for 15 quid. It was just ridiculous. And I think I bought 4, so I've got like 800 grams of fingering weight yarn. I've got loads of it. Again, it is a little bit scratchy, a little bit itchy. Like, a lot of people have used this, they'll know it, but I think I'll be fine with that. I think it's really bouncy, it's really nice. I think once it's had a wash, it'll be no problem next to skin. And I also bought this. I bought this the following year because I'd had it in mind to hold the two together. This is Onion Moleskin Silk Kid Hair, 40% mulberry silk, 60% super fine kid hair. Very soft, lovely colour match, very shiny. So I may or I may not hold that with it. It depends what I want to make. I've got lots of it, so I had thought in the past maybe a no frills cardigan by Petite Knit. That's a very long cardigan. It's got no buttons or anything. I'd seen it and thought, oh, that's quite nice. And then Leah at Stitchcraft knitted one, and she looks lovely and everything, to be honest, but she looked really nice in it, and she said that she found it really useful. It was really comfortable. So that is a definite possibility. And I don't know if I'd have enough mohair. I think, well, I've got 4 balls, so it's 240 meters to 25 grams, and I've got 4. So yeah, I would have enough to match. Oh no, I'm mixing up meters and grams. I don't know. I'd have to look at the pattern, see what was required, but I have got quite a lot of it. I've got 100 grams of it. The other thing I thought was maybe a dress of some sort, because I have got lots of it, and I could hold it double, or I could hold it with a mohair, because even if I had to buy more of this mohair, I think when you hold them together, I don't think you'd notice if there was a slight colour change with the dye lot. I don't think so, especially if I used it for, like, I don't know, arms or ribbing or whatever. I mean, I have a palette, you know, I have a sort of range of colours that I really like. So yeah, I've typed that backwards. I need to get on with that. Then the 3 other things, one of which I've just knocked over and I'm going to have to go and rummage to get in a minute. The 3 other yarns that I'd really like to use, and let me say, I know that this is a lot of wool and I'm not going to knit all of it this year, like, definitely, even if I was up to full knitting capacity, which I'm not at the minute, and even if I didn't have 3 outstanding whips to try and work on before I, you know, get too far into other things, I still don't think I'd get through all of this. I know that, but these are just the things that I'm interested in using, and maybe focusing on and sort of trying to get through. Right, so the next 3 lots are all yarn that I've dyed myself, that you might have seen here before. This kind of looks just very kind of boring and beigey. It does have an ever so slight pink tinge to it. So this again is Laxton's yarn, and this is a BFL Masham yarn. I think, I'm pretty sure it is mix, but it was marled ever so slightly. I think it's called Marble DK on their website. I think that's what it's called. And so there was a white yarn and a sort of oatmeal-y grey yarn, like a ply of each, twisted around each other. And then I dyed it in birch bark, which gives like a really soft sort of beigey pink, but because it went onto the sort of slightly grey beige base, it's just it hasn't come out so pink. It's just like a really warm beige, and I really like it. Although it feels like wool, to me it's really soft and bouncy and squidgy, like it would just make the best jumper. And I think it's 240, yeah, 240 meters per 100 grams, which is by chance exactly the same meterage as you get on Woolly Mammoth Fibre Company Hearth DK. Emma is I'm sure everybody knows, is a natural dyer in Northern Ireland. She dyes really beautiful yarns. I've used quite a few of her yarns before. I used a lot of them in Hearth DK in my heirloom quilt cardigan, which I made as a vest, which I've shown on here before. And I have lots of leftovers from that, so they're not included in the yarn survey in my units, but I do have them and will definitely use them for something else. But I have a whole skein of this left because I think this is what I was thinking of using to knit the sleeves, but then I didn't put sleeves on it. This is the colour Roast Chestnut 1. Now, if I had any criticism of Emma, which I don't because she's wonderful, but if I did, she doesn't tell you what the colours are dyed with, and a lot of natural dyers do that. So they'll give it a colourway name, and sometimes that colourway name is what they've dyed it with. So for example, it might be Aldercone, or it might be Cosmos, or whatever. But often it's a sort of, you know, pretty colourway name like Roast Chestnut or Fireside. I think she's got one called Fireside Embers, or, you know, different things like that. But it doesn't tell you what she used to dye them. And as a natural dyer, I find that really annoying. Like, I want to know. Not from a copying point of view. You can't copy, you know, she'll have specific recipes, but just from an interest point of view. I mean, my guess is that's like a madder dyed with something else, like maybe a walnut or something. I don't know, some sort of tannin rich dye stuff, and the two of them together. That's, or maybe a madder in an iron bath, something like that. I don't know, but personally I'd find it really interesting to know, but I don't. So I think I'm going to hold, I've got loads of these. I think I've got 500 grams, sorry all the rustling. I think I've got 500 grams of these, so 5 skeins of that and 1 skein of that. So some sort of colour work yoke. Obviously this would be the contrast. I think they go nicely together. I think I would wear them a lot, and they feel very similar. It's not the same because this is Jacob and BFL, and I think this is BFL Masham. It's a bit softer, but I think that complement each other really well. So that's one. Number 2 of my self-dyed yarns is this, which I've shown before. I'm using this. I said last time, my middle son never wants anything. He doesn't like knitted things. He's never asked me to knit anything. When I've offered things in the past, he's just said no thanks. But then recently, when I knitted my husband and my 2 older children checked hats, they all had them on together one morning, and he looked at me and he said, I really want a checked hat. I want to join in. I was like, oh, well, I'm going to have to do it now. So as I say, I've not been knitting a lot, but I have over the last week cast that on, and I've been doing like 4 rows a night or a day, like just of an evening, just going really slowly. So it's taken me like 40 minutes to do 4 rounds of 100 stitches or whatever. But I've just been going really slowly and really gently and stopping and stretching my wrist if I needed to. And then after the 4 rounds, I've just stopped so as not to push it. But it's in a navy blue yarn, and then that will be the contrast. This is a BFL Mashroom yarn as well, but this is very soft and shiny. And this was, I bought the yarn from Jane at Snapdragon Life a lot of years ago, and this was the first yarn I'd ever dyed with indigo. And I think I put a picture up last time. It was a bit splodgy. There are a lot of dark splodgy bits in there. But again, I've got 5, I might have 6. Oh look, I've got one that I haven't skeined up. Can you see that dark splodgy bit? There. It really shows off there. So I've got, yeah, I think I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I've got 6 minus the bit that I'm using on my son's hat. So I could do quite a nice jumper in that. It's very soft. Telephone, excuse me, this never happens. Hiya, sorry about that. Interrupted by a telephone. So I think I was just finished talking about the indigo dyed wool. The last type of yarn that I want to try and use is all of this naturally dyed yarn. This is a Shetland yarn. I've shown it before, so I won't go on about it too much. It's a Shetland yarn that I got in a cone from World of Wool. So it's not from Laxton's, this is from World of Wool, and 100% Shetland yarn, DK weight. And I've either, like if I've been dyeing something else, I've just popped a 20 gram skein in with whatever I was dyeing or into the exhaust bath. Or there are some things that I thought I'd just sort of try, things that I might not have tried before or I've not tried for a while, that I would try, and I'd just popped a small amount in as like a tester. So I think I've shown most of those colours before. I showed these on my Instagram this week. They all just look so lovely together. So this is red onion skin. So I've dyed a lot with onion skins, but not like solely red onion skins by themselves very often, mainly because I don't get that many red onion skins, but I've been sort of purposefully buying and cooking with more. And my dad, bless him, actually did the same, and when he came at Christmas, he came with this big bag of them, like as an extra present. When you dye, often you use like a minimum of 100% weight, like a 1-to-1 ratio of whatever you're dyeing with whatever you're dyeing with. So if I'm dyeing 20 grams of yarn, I'd need at least 20 grams of plant matter. And obviously onion skins don't weigh very much, so you need quite a lot of them. So this one, which is this really lovely warm kind of coppery orangey brown, that's with 100%, so 20 gram of red onion skins. And then this one, which is like a much darker, sort of more chestnutty, kind of rusty brown, that's 40 grams of red onion skins. So that's like double the amount, and you can see it's come out with a darker colour. And then this one, after I dyed that one, I then put that one into what's called the exhaust bath, the first exhaust, and it came out with like a much paler version of that. But then I dipped it into iron, and red onion skins and iron often go a sort of greeny colour. It's not quite picking it up. This is sort of like a khaki, olivey green colour. it's a bit more green than it looks. It's kind of like a wheaty green, is the best I can describe it, which is not very well, but it's very nice. And then this is alder cones. We've got storms again today. It's been really windy, and we've got alder trees at the bottom of the garden, and every day, either to or from school, we pick up a couple of handfuls. My pockets are all full of alder cones, so I've got quite a lot of those. And actually, when I was going through my basket, I discovered I've already done a skein, so that's ever so slightly different, but not really. So those 4 I did end of last week, I think, or beginning of this week. I can't remember. And then I've also done some, these have just dried this morning. I've just been and checked them. This is madder. Now, I grow some madder. You use the root, and I grow it, and I've harvested it and dried it and ground it and used it. But my husband also bought me some madder root extract. So it's a powder, like a commercially produced powder. It's produced in the same way, but just on much larger scale. And so I've used that. It's the first time I've used the powder. I've still got a bit more left. And that's like a really nice red. It's not quite, I was really hoping for a proper bright red. And it is a tiny bit rustier than that. It's got a bit of orange to it. And then I put 2 skeins in at once, and I put this in to iron. Now it's basically just gone a darker, sort of more rusty version. The light's a bit funny. I've opened the curtain again. Maybe I shouldn't have done. It's like a slightly darker, rustier version. When I have dyed fabric in madder and then dipped it in iron, I got like a purpley, like a mauvey, really lovely colour, and I thought that's what I'd get, but I didn't, which is kind of the fun of natural dye. And then I had an exhaust bath, and I put this in, and this has come up like, it's not quite, it's looking a bit more corally, a bit more orangey on screen. It is the most beautiful pink colour. It's just really nice. So they look really nice together. Obviously, I've got lots of it, but I've just got 20 grams of each one. Well, except for that alder. For some reason, I've got 40 grams of that. So I want to use that in some sort of colour work sweater. That is one of my goals. It was a goal last year, and I did a little bit of colour work last year, and I want to carry that goal through into this year to do some more colour work, and I want to do like a colour work yoke, maybe. There are some patterns by Susan Crawford, and somebody else that I can't remember, that I was looking at and thinking about. So again, I don't have any firm plans, but that's what I'm thinking of with that. And I don't know if I'm going to do it on a white base or dye up some yarn for the main colour, or just use a bought yarn. I don't know. I've not got that far. So that's it for yarns. I hope you're still with me. I hope you're doing well. Like, this is roughly like 2 years worth of knitting anyway, and now I'm going to throw in sewing. I will put up a picture of where I store my fabrics, so you can kind of see the cupboard of doom is on the left, and then there's these 2 open shelves, and on the top shelf there is a basket, and that basket contains larger pieces of fabric, so like fabric for garment sewing, so sort of 2, 3, I think I've got a couple of 4 meters lengths of fabric. I think you can probably spot there's a bit more yarn. There's some black cones of yarn there. That includes the Shetland yarn that I've just shown you. And there is also a basket full of yarn next to like a little, it's like a children's loom. I think I got it for £5 on sale at Amazon. Not Amazon, did not shop at Amazon. IKEA, years and years ago. And I don't know, the kids used it like constantly for about a week and then did nothing. and it's been sat there ever since with me thinking, I'll use that, I'll make something with that. And that yarn is again from Yarndale, and it's from this shop, and they just sell these 50-gram balls for about 50p each. It is very rough spun. I don't think you'd want to wear it against your skin, like not a hat, not a pair of gloves. It's really, really rough. It's a bit like string, but I thought that would be quite good for weaving with, and if I wanted to then wash it and felt it, I think it would do it. So I'm thinking like a placemat or something like that in my brain. That's going to happen at some point. But yeah, in that top basket is where I keep the big pieces of fabric, and then underneath you'll see there's some drawers, including 3 big drawers. The top drawer, I think I've got a picture of this too. The top drawer is like smaller scraps, the middle drawer is larger scraps, and the bottom drawer is fabric that I have dyed naturally. So those will get used in smaller projects. Quilts, well, quilts aren't small projects, but smaller pieces, you know, particularly the naturally dyed fabric will get used for quilts, but some of the other bits too. And then I have started already at the beginning of this year trying to think of ways to use up all of those smaller scrappy bits, because they fill up a lot of space. You know, these 3 drawers are absolutely jam-packed with them, but they're too big pieces. They're too good to just kind of stick on the compost. I do have like a basket, like a waste paper bin, that I put tiny little scraps of fabric in, like the slithers when you snip things off, or, you know, end pieces of this or that, and that tends to go on the compost. But these are, you know, these might be this big. They're not for chucking out. So, and some of them are bigger than that. If you saw last time, you'd seen that I'd made a patchwork, like a big padded zipper pouch basically, and I am in the process of making another little smaller pouch out of hexagons, like paper pieced hexagons, out of fabric out of those drawers as well. So I want across this year to try and use up some of those smaller bits in smaller projects, again, so they're not just sat there taking up space, making me feel bad about them. Here I've pulled out 4 pieces of garment size fabrics that I would like to use. This top one, this is actually not all the fabric, because I have started to cut out this fabric already. This is quite a large whale cord. It's quite thin. It's not really super thick cord, but it's a nice large whale in a really dark brown chocolatey colour. I got this from Merchant and Mills, and I'm going to use it to make a caladium jumpsuit. So again, if you've been here a while, or if you look at my Instagram, which is just _eagle.mountain, I made a jumpsuit. It's got a deep V front and back. You just kind of pull it on type jumpsuit, really wide culotte style legs, and I made it in a sort of mid-weight denim, and I wear it a lot. I really like it. It's really comfortable. You can lay lots of stuff underneath it, so it's warm, but I think it'd be good in the summer as well. This obviously is dark brown cord. It's probably not the most summery of items, but I do think it'd be really cozy and comfy to wear autumn, winter, early spring. So that is a definite plan, and that's kind of already happening because I've started cutting out the fabric. This is also from Merchant and Mills. This is something that I've had my eye on for so long, and I've just kind of felt I've got too much fabric, I can't justify it. It's a very dark brown and kind of sort of creamy one. It's not quite white, it's not quite cream, like an off-white, really big gingham. It's linen. It's 2 meters. I have actually unfollowed Merchant and Mills on Instagram because I found it so tempting, and then find it so stressful and guilt-inducing to like want to buy stuff. I wanted to kind of remove that feeling from myself, but my stepmom and dad offered to buy me some fabric for my birthday, which has just gone, and this is what I got. And I love it. Or maybe it was for Christmas, I'm not sure. So I think I want to make a dress out of that. And again, I could wear that all year round. Now this, I wanted to make another pair of bob pants. I have 3 pairs of bob pants, so it might be excessive to have 4 pairs of bob pants, but I wear them all the time. The 3 pairs that I've made, I wear lots. One of them is like, I said last time, it's like my fantasy pair for Christmas. I did wear it yesterday. I think I took a video or a photo or something, so if I did, I'll stick that in. But the other 2, I've got a cotton pair and a linen pair, and I wear them loads. I wore them all summer, and I've worn them all winter with like leggings or tights underneath, and I just love them. They're so, so comfy. So I decided I wanted another pair in like a soft brushed cotton, and I bought this, which I really liked, and I thought would look really nice with this jumper. This is my wider jumper, which was in a liner publication, and I thought that would look really nice. I seem to have slouched down into my chair. But do you remember I said earlier, sometimes when you buy fabric online, when it comes, you realise it's not quite suitable for what you thought. Well, this is it's more lightweight than I thought. It's quite floppy, and I don't know, those trousers have got that structure, you know, the sort of bow-legged shape, and I think they might be a bit flappy. I don't think it would be the best use. So I do really like it, and I do want to use it. So I thought maybe some sort of, maybe like a shirt dress. I have got a shirt dress pattern that I've, which was a Merchant and Mills pattern that I have made before in a really lightweight fabric. It's just whether I've got enough of this to do it. But I definitely want to use that. But then when I was rummaging around, tidying up my stash recently, I found this brushed cotton. So I shouldn't have bought that at all. This is what I mean. If you know what you've got, if you've got some sort of inventory, or you go through it more regularly, you've got stuff to use, and sometimes you double up and it's a bit annoying. Anyway, I've got this brushed cotton. I've got enough, definitely. I've probably got 2 meters of that, so there's definitely enough to make a pair of bobs. And it's like a navy blue, a bottle green, and a sort of warm brown check, like a plaid. And it's brushed cotton, but it's thicker, it's heavier. So I think that'll make a really nice pair of trousers. And I've got a green jumper that will go with it. Actually, that would that go with it? That Laxton's, maybe not the right type of green. But anyway, I do have a green. I have a green Felix in Let Lopi that I think would look really nice with it. So yeah, they are my 4 bits of fabric. I've got lots more. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got at least 4 more like garment sized bits of fabric for me, and then 2 garment sized bits of fabric that I bought to make something for my daughter, which I've just not got around to doing. And partly because she's humming and hawing about what she might like. So I'm not as bad with fabric as I am with wool, but I've definitely got more than I would sew up in a year. Possibly not more than I could sew up if I devoted myself to it. I could get through it, but with the knitting and with the quilting and all the rest of it that I enjoy doing, and gardening and everything once summer comes in, I'll probably be lucky to get through these, never mind into the other ones. So yeah, that's a quick tour of like my current favourites of my knitting, like my yarn, and my current favourites of my fabric, with the exception really of the linen. The others, like if they don't happen before the warm weather kicks in, they're probably not going to happen till autumn. Like the bush cotton and the cord are kind of like cool weather feeling. I'm probably not going to be sewing, you know, bush cotton. Although, as I said, it depends what the summer's like. So ignore that. So the one other thing I wanted to show is I've got 3 quilting projects kind of sort of in process. I realise I've left one of them over there. Well, actually, that's not true. I've got 4 in process, and I've got 3 of them here. So one of them you've seen before, and it's It's a quilt top and it's made out of half square triangles, and I've got a quarter of it's in various shades of blue from indigo, a quarter of it's in various shades of pink from madder, from avocado, and other things, and then a quarter of it is in various shades of purple. That's from logwood, madder. This is that I'm sorry, it's the back of the quilt so you can see all the seam allowance. This is the madder. It's not really showing it up there, but that sort of darker colour, that's the madder that was over dyed with the indigo, so it made like a maroony aubergine colour, which is kind of what I was expecting with the yarn, but the yarn went a rusty red. So, you know, whether it's the fibre content, or I do use a slightly different Allen Mordaunt on fabric than I do on wool, so maybe that paid, you know, sometimes it's, you know, this was madder that I'd grown in my garden too, so your soil and your weather and all of that plays a part. Anyway, I'm waffling. And then this last quarter was all different greens. So my daughter actually calls this the Four Seasons quilt. So that quilt top is done. It's got a stripy border around it, and I'm going to back it in white. So I need to layer it up, quilt it together, and then I'm going to do a stripy binding. So I'm going to mirror this on the binding around the outside. So I will hand quilt it, so I wouldn't say it's nearly done, but it's probably half done. So I want to do that. Then the next one that I really want to do, it's in bits, so it's going to be a bit tricky to show you. I'll move that off first and show you my book. So this is my plan. These are the fabrics that I want to use. So this is all fabric that I've dyed, and that's the information. I've got heather, homegrown coreopsis, hoe-grow tansy, mixed onion skins, conifer from the trees outside, and then an extract of kutch, which my husband bought me like a little selection of different extracts a few years ago. And I don't, they're not my favourite to use extracts, but I am going to use them because I've got them and it was dead kind of him. And it makes a really lovely colour as well. And then this is the block pattern that I want to use that I got out of a book. It was it's called the pine burr, so like pine cone pattern, and it was just like I've got a quilt book that has like 1001 quilt blocks, and it just shows you pictures of them like hand drawn on like grid paper. It doesn't give you any direction how to make them, or no measurements or anything like that. So this is what it was, and I've spent a bit of time figuring out how to do it, and I had to get my daughter into like, how do we, you know, figure out what hypotenuse is, if the two, like, what's the length of the hypotenuse of a right angle triangle. And fortunately she's closer to have learning, you know, closer than I am to when I learned that type of stuff. So this is all I've got so far. I've got like the centre and the two sides, and I think I've got another side half done, and then another bit in pieces, and that's it. That's as far as I got. And I think I wanted 8 to make up the quilt top. Like, I really love it. The colours are gorgeous. What's that bright colour? That's the coreopsis. So I was very pleased with how neat and tidy my points were too. So yeah, I want to come back to that. It hurt my brain a bit figuring out all the bits, and I really had to work hard to get all those points neat and tidy and everything. It took quite a bit of going, so I kind of lost steam slightly on that. So I mean, that's been like that for 2 years, I think. So I either need to do it or just abandon it. I've got all the fabric folded up. It's all washed. It's all ready to go. It's all folded up in a basket, put to one side. And it's just sat there looking at me for 2 years. Oh, and then not quite 2 years, but a good 18 months. I've had this as well. I went on a half-day course with Jane from Dragon Life. I went up to Scotland to go to Stitch Farm to do it, and it was does she call it eco printing or botanical printing? Anyway, she uses a heat press and to transfer the image of a plant or some leaves, you know, a plant, a flower or some leaves onto fabric. And it was brilliant. I don't know if that's the best one. You can see that's quite faint. This is a better one. There you go. Sticky Willy. And you can actually see, you know, it's like embossed. You can see there's a texture to these as well. I've got 4 or 5, 5 of them, I think. That's bramble, or is it raspberry? I think it's bramble. I should have written it down, shouldn't I? There's some bracken. No, is it bracken? Oh God, it might be Sweet Cicely. It's very beautiful. I think it's Sweet Cicely looking at it. And that's woad. You can tell by the blue seeds. I've got no idea what that is. But they're really beautiful. They really remind me of, and I've got the papers. So you have paper either side of the material and the plant stuff to stop it all being damaged by the heat from the heat press. But you get like this side bonus of these really beautiful embossed papers. They really remind me of sort of Victorian museum not samples, specimens. My brain's not working. Specimens. I did a museum's, an art gallery degree, like a different life ago, and spent time rummaging around in sort of museum archives. And you know, they just have drawers, you pull them out and they have these they're called herbariums, you know, the pressed plants, and they kind of taped onto the paper, and the paper's all yellowed, and they have these beautiful little handwritten notes about the plant, and I find them really beautiful. So on the course, other people were like mixing different plants. They were making like a wild meadow sort of effect, like a wildflower meadow effect, which then would say you could put across on a cushion or something. One lady did this beautiful sort of wreath type arrangement and pressed it. Again, that would look really lovely on a cushion, but I couldn't, like, my personality wouldn't allow me to do that. I had to do them individually, so they were like specimens, so they were just really like. And I did dye, it's over here looking at me, a load of fabric, and I kind of purposefully scrunched it up so it dyed unevenly, so it looked old and kind of weathered, so it sort of faded in places, and I did it in sort of browns and khaki greens and stuff. And the idea was that I'd use that to frame those pieces as like sashing around them, and make up a quilt top with these. And I haven't done it, you know, it's been ages, and they sit there, and every time I open the cupboard of doom, they're sat on top of those boxes, and I look at them and think, I really need to get to that. Or whenever I'm rummaging around under my cutting table, I think, oh, I've got all that fabric for that quilt, I need to do that, and I haven't. So as well as kind of using up stash and using resources, I want to try and finish off some of these projects, because again, they're things, you know, they're all things that I've created the resources for. You know, I've dyed the fabric, or I've printed this fabric. I want to make the most of it. I have also, bear with me, got this massive basket full of bits, which was the start of a quilt that I'd made. My husband and I last year, no, not last year, year before, 2003, went to Barcelona, just the two of us. It was the first time I'd been abroad for 10 years, and it was the first time we'd been away without kids. It was special, and we had a lovely time. But you know, the whole time I was there, I was thinking, oh, that would make a nice quilt, or that would make a nice quilt, or that would make a nice quilt. And I took these pictures. One of the places we went to is Park Güell. If you've been to Barcelona, it was like a park designed by Gaudi, and it has this beautiful big section, this beautiful big curved and like serpentine bench all around this open space, and it's all decorated with mosaics. And I took lots of pictures of these shapes where we'd done circles with other patterns around them, and I was really taken by them, and I thought I could do that in a quilt, and wouldn't that be an excellent way to use up like scraps of fabric, particularly scraps of printed fabric, and that I've collected from a long time ago, before I died, and when I would buy fabric for patchworking in different patterns and prints and things, which is not something that I do so much now. It's not necessarily the sort of aesthetic that I enjoy anymore, but I do have lots of it, and I wanted to use them up, and I wanted to have a go at sewing a curved, like a circle, which I'd not done before. So I started making them. I think so far I've got, I think 3 or 4 with the circles on. And then I've got some that are just the strips. So these are stripped piece together. So you have a backing piece, which is just white cotton, and then you cut strips of your different colours, and they're all slightly different widths. And I've gone for all pinks and blues. So some of them are naturally dyed. This is madder, this is indigo, this is indigo. But I seem to have lots of pink and blue scraps from previous projects, or from like my auntie gave me like a jelly roll, and my sister-in-law gave me a pack of fat quarters and stuff, and they just so happen to have lots of those colours in. So you sew one piece on down the centre, and then you put another piece on, or you lay it on top, and then you put another piece on right face, and you sew a seam, and then you fold it out and iron it, and then you put the next one on and fold it out and iron it, and you end up with these I think it's called string piecing, that's what it's called. So I did 4 and made into a big square, or I did 4 and then you cut out a semicircle, and you cut out a corresponding semicircle. Oh, it's not a semicircle, sorry, it's a quarter circle, and you sew the two together, and so you get this kind of moon shape. And I will also at some point have the reverse. So I've got, you know, there's the bit that I cut out, and there's the leftover of the quarter circle that I cut out. So I'll have like an opposite type effect, a white moon with a colourful background and a colourful moon with a white background. I don't know if I'd put them together in the same quilt or whether it'd make up 2 separate ones. This is one of those things that I really enjoy the process of doing. Like I like string piecing. I find it quite meditative. I enjoy it, and I liked this when it came together. I really like the effect. I think because I'm using fabric that I don't really love anymore, in really bright colours and in patterns that I don't really enjoy anymore, I kind of think, oh, what am I going to do with it? What am I going to do with it? I don't know if I want it in my house, and like I don't know if anybody else would want it, like either for me to gift it or for me to sell it as a piece. And so then I think, oh well, you know, there's no point me doing it. Why am I still doing it? I'll just stop. But then like now I get it out and I think, oh, but did really enjoy it, and actually it does look quite nice. And you know, I look at those pictures that I showed of Parkwell and I think actually it does look like that. It does look like the mosaic. It is quite cool. I'm just going to show this one that I've just put on top. You see here, this has got a little flower embroidered on it. This was off a nightie that my mum bought for my daughter when she was like 2. She looked like a little fairy. It was like a cotton lawn nightie, and it went all the way down. It had little flowers and embroidered on it and 2 little fairies here. She looks so gorgeous, and now she's 15 and she's still gorgeous, but it's not quite the same. So I don't know, it's nice to use up those things and include them, isn't it? Little touches. So yeah, that's the 4th one. That there's just a huge basket of stuff that could go into that. So well done. I think this is over an hour. I mean, it's in 2 bits. This bit is 35 minutes. So thank you if you've stayed to the end. I hope you found it interesting. I know it might be more interesting if I was saying I'm going to knit this pattern, I'm going to knit this pattern. But as I say, that will come hopefully at the beginning of March. I'll start putting patterns to these yarns and the fabrics, but out of, you know, all of my stash and things, these are the things that I want to focus on, the projects that I want to focus on, and do want to make more quilts. I really enjoy it. But I feel like maybe I need to clear these quilt projects out, either by saying, that's it, they're never going to happen, like just give them up, you know, compost them, or give the individual pieces away for somebody else to finish or whatever. Or I need to say, nope, I'm going to do it, I'm going to knuckle down and I'm going to get it done. And then it's like clearing the decks, clearing the energy, and moving on. And in amongst all of that, I want to try and do some little projects, like I was saying about the quilted bags, maybe some more project bags. I really need to make some more pot holders, because my fingers are getting very warm taking the sourdough pot in and out the oven. So yeah, hopefully you've got some inspiration. Hopefully you've got some, maybe you've got some inspiration for me. Maybe you'd say that green, that 400 grams of green Laxton's wool trace is perfect for, and then you're gonna give me a brilliant pattern. That would be very nice if you felt like doing that. So if you do have any ideas, or if you've got, you know, any intentions that you're thinking of this year, goals that you want to hold in mind, like I said, I want to do colour work as well as using up stash, that's another thing, then let me know in the comments. I really enjoy reading your comments. Thank you to everybody that does leave them, and thank you to everybody that likes and subscribes and all of that jazz. It's all very much appreciated. Okay, I'll see you again soon.